Before you can put together any sort of ideas, plan, or layout for your bike storage area, you need to know your local municipal codes. If you're unfamiliar with the local ordinances, we recommend using the website library.municode.com. Here, you will find a collection of municipal codes and can even search within the text of the documents. In your review of the codes, the first thing you will want to look up are the requirements for the number of bicycle parking spots. Often, this is a mandated ordinance, typically based on the number of rooms, building occupants, or square footage of the building. Knowing exactly how many bicycles you need to store is crucial information moving forward. It will impact your decisions on the type of bike racks used and necessary space to install them. If there is no ordinance requiring a certain number of bike storage spots, we suggest following the AP/BP recommendations, which vary depending on the type of building. For office buildings, the guideline is 1 bike storage space for every 10,000 square feet of floor area. For multifamily housing, plan on a half a space of bike storage for every bedroom. Healthcare and hospitals, either 1.5 spaces for every 20 employees or 1 space for each 50,000 square feet of floor area, whichever is greater. Public elementary, junior high, and high schools should have 1.5 spaces for each 10 employees, plus 1.5 spaces for each 20 students of planned capacity. For colleges and universities, it's 1.5 spaces for each 10 employees, plus 1 space for each 10 students of planned capacity, or 1 space for each 20,000 square feet of floor area, whichever is greater. There is also a third option for determining bike storage spaces. Store as many bicycles as possible in the area designated for bike storage. It's also worth remembering these are guidelines for long-term bike storage areas. These do not reflect the spots needed for short-term bike parking. In addition to the number of bicycle storage spots you will need to create, you will want to review the municipal codes for items pertaining to approved bike racks. Ordinances can list out criteria a bike rack must adhere to. This might include materials or certain measurements. It may also restrict certain types of bike racks. For example, bike racks requiring the user to lift the bicycle, like a vertical bike rack or 2-tiered, may not be permissible in senior facilities. You'll also want to be aware if there are any ordinances on the spacing of bike racks. Things like how far apart each rack needs to be placed, if there needs to be an aisle space behind the bike rack, or setbacks from walls and other objects. Once you know the number of bicycle spots and municipal code requirements, you will now need to consider the physical properties of the bike storage site. Walls are going to be the main concern. If you plan to use wall-mounted bike racks, the material of the wall will determine if a bike rack can be used and how it can be mounted to the wall. For wall materials, poured concrete is ideal. Generally, you can anchor bike racks directly into the concrete. For concrete blocks, brick, as well as steel and metal studs behind drywall, these might require specific mounting hardware not available with certain bike racks. When anchoring into a wall is not an option, a freestanding bike rack will be the best solution. We'll get into more details about styles of bike racks and the best situations to use them in the next section. But for now, it's worth noting that not all bike racks require anchoring into walls. For those that do, again, make sure to check local ordinances on what is allowable for drilling and anchoring into walls. The next item of note with walls would be any obstructions, like mechanicals, plumbing, electrical fixtures, windows, and so on, that would inhibit a bike rack from being installed on the wall. With individual racks, there is more freedom to work around these obstructions and place the racks where you would want them. Obstructions become a greater challenge when you want to install a system with bike racks on a U-channel or a freestanding unit. These would require a smooth length of wall. Ceiling height will also need to be taken into consideration. With vertical bike racks and 2-tier bike racks, there needs to be enough clearance above the rack to lift the bicycle onto the bike rack. Your municipality codes may also specify the necessary amount of clearance. The shape of the room also affects the outcome of your bike storage area. This comes into play with the amount of space behind a parked bicycle that needs to remain clear, also referred to as the aisle. With room shapes that narrow on one end, the number of bicycles that can be stored may be reduced due to the necessity of the aisle. Other objects within the bike storage area, like pillars and beams, must also be accounted for to ensure that these do not limit the needed space behind a bike rack. It would be a good idea to write down and have all of this information together. as these items, along with your overall goal, will direct you to the type of bike storage solutions you can use in building out your bike storage area.